So I read this book by Napoleon Hill recently called Outwitting the Devil. And apparently this book has been like, when he wrote it, he didn't want it published till after he died. And his wife or partner at the time also didn't want it published before she died. And after 80 years of being hid, it was published. I brought it with me when I went to Costa Rica recently because I was reading it and it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. For some reason, like, let me bring it. And it was interesting because a lot of the things that were talked about in that book, I've had these parallel experiences in ayahuasca where it's trying to show me almost the exact same thing. The premise of the book is basically that the devil is your ego. It's like not this red monster with a tail and fiery hell. It's this thing in your mind that is whispering doubts and feeding fear and keeping you unstuck just below your potential. Okay, and I was like, okay, that's really interesting because a lot of us can relate to that. What it really talks about is the 3 or 4 main things, and I'm going to share them with you of how to kind of identify it, how to kind of make that change, and how to use this information to really unlock like the most amazing transformation in your life. And the way his story goes is, he was this guy back in the 1920s during the Great Depression. And he interviews all these like business leaders and he wants to write a book. He interviews 500 of them, like Andrew Carnegie. So imagine like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Peter Thiel, like all the big billionaires, probably, Trump or whoever, Mark Cuban. And he tries to like figure out what are the principles that make them successful. And then he also interviews like 25,000 people who are broke or failures to kind of see what, is the opposite end of it. He has some success. He's touring around teaching at schools and doing talks. And then he partners with some newspaper in I think Ohio or something like that. And during Prohibition, this guy was trying to expose like dirty cops who are working with mobsters to kind of like do all these things. And so the guy who owns the paper gets taken out, and then Napoleon Hill starts getting threatened for his life. And he takes off to go hide. He was warned. He goes hide somewhere in West Virginia, I think. And he goes into this dark night of the soul. And he's questioning it, losing his mind. And he gets this breaking point where he realizes that he was going around talking about this thing to all these people who were failures who didn't have it, but he didn't know if it worked 100%. And he had to be brought down to his knees to have his dark night of the soul, to lose everything, to see if he could build it back up again. And so I'll talk about some of the principles in the book relating to your own life. Like it's like that indecision is the first one. So they call it drifting, which is, they say, the devil's favorite strategy. So it's when you start living without direction, without purpose, without clarity, you become reactive, distracted. So like think about social media, think about, sports and things that people like lose their minds into, and their life kind of is just like kind of in between, and they start to drift. And it's not because they want to, but because they never decide to take action, to make a change, to up-level their life. This is one of the key things here. Finding your purpose, and this is a whole topic from the video, is kind of like one of the protections against them. And it's not easy to find our purpose. We're trying to get clear, and that's doing the self-work. It's like the inquiry and the questioning, okay? So the gateway to fear in this book talks about indecision. So it's this drifting, we're not being able to decide, and it creates like this internal chaos. And you might have felt this, and I've felt this many times in my life, like analysis paralysis, not sure which way to go. It starts creating space for that ego to start whispering, you're not good enough. What if you fail? What will people think of you? And I've been here. I'll share a personal story towards the end of the video. Sometimes we say, like, I'm just waiting. I'm taking my time. A lot of times we get stuck in this place. And in that place of indecision, we start having paralysis, and then fear starts to grow. Okay. But the moment you make that decision to make a change, that's where everything changes. You start reclaiming your sovereignty. Okay, so hold that point for a second. Coming back to what I was talking in the beginning, the devil is the ego in disguise, or the ego is the devil in disguise, or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. It's like this force that lives in our mind, and that is kind of pushing us to kind of like have fear and maybe indecision and maybe not to do anything. But it has a specific role because it pushes us to grow. It's egging us on. It talks about operating in the space of like indecision, separation, and sometimes it's hard to really surrender to that. And, he talks about the devil uses these tricks to kind of trick people into getting stuck and then going into fear and then feeding off that fear is kind of what he says. And so the good thing about that is if that's always within you, that means the answer is within you as well. And this has the parallels to so many times that I've been in plant medicine that it was kind of showing me. It's like, hey, a lot of these things that you're feared about are actually figments of your imagination, your beliefs, and the things that you're making way bigger or worse than there actually is. And what it's really trying to do is challenge you to growth. So you get to a point in life where you feel stuck. It's like, okay, it's time to up level. The ego's going to try to hold you back because it likes certainty and it likes kind of whatever. And then it's up to you to take that faith, that leap of faith into the new reality. Because without resistance in life, there's no ability to rise above, a resistance. What he says is like the devil is like this obstacle that's challenging you to evolve. So maybe God and the devil are working together in some way, and they want us to evolve. And they got to play scary. Like you have to have that kind of fear, good cop, bad cop type of thing. For light to show, like you have to have contrast with darkness, right? I think in the Bible, it was like darkness was first, and it was like, and then let there be light, because we wouldn't know what light is if there wasn't darkness. Our souls, I think, get refined through these challenges, through these resistance, through these stuck moments in life. And, this other thing that I learned in plant medicine, and I guess what religion was trying to teach me for so many years, and maybe I just wasn't getting the message, that faith is the antidote to fear. It's trusting and surrendering that, okay, this is possible. And, in my own life, when I opened this, a couple businesses, one of them was a wellness center where I went all in. I saw my name on the line, mortgage on my house, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had to sit with the possibility of completely failing. And in the past, I've been able to weasel my way out, close it down, figure out ways out of these situations. This one, I kind of finally put myself in the cornered myself, and I couldn't. And in those moments, it forced you to decide, am I going to sit here and wither away? Or am I going to figure out a way to change my life that I cannot see right now, and have the faith to trust that this can work? And through a series of events in the books, like, he's being told what to do and what to say by this other self that's based on faith, and these crazy things happen. And most of my own life, when I start trusting myself and stepping into my heart and having faith, listening to my intuition and going for it, things start to happen in a beautiful way. So all in all, like basically your breakthrough is hiding behind the fear that you're probably avoiding. Okay. And sometimes it's like to go towards the fear, not to like be a masochist and bring yourself to pain and all these kind of things. And there's some things actually that you should be afraid of. Like don't go jump in a snake pit with venomous snakes. But when there's things in life that feel scary or uncomfortable, it's like, how do I lean into them? How do I bring more awareness to that and see what's actually there? So fear isn't the problem. It's avoiding fear and all these protections you put in, not to be afraid, to not feel. If you can start to feel the fear and then use it as fuel for transformation, that's maybe a pivot in perspective that can really help you transform in life. You might relate to this. The scariest decisions are always or often the most necessary ones in transformation. Let me know what you think. This whole devil, the ego, fear, it makes complete sense. Our minds are holding us back, but it's happening like that for a reason, to push us into growth. Okay, to help us evolve. And I highly recommend reading that book, Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. If you've read it, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your interpretations. But I think it was key because a lot of those things. Oh, and his last ceremony that I was in, here's the key. Here's a link to the psychedelic in the title. I was thinking about these things I'm afraid of. The world is so chaotic. What's going to happen to my kids? And, are we going to make it as society? And how bad is it going to get? And the medicine was just like, dude, like, just don't be afraid. There is a solution out of this. It may not be clear. Things we're going to have to change pretty drastically to get there. But you need to step into your light and step out of the fear that you might be in, and just trust that even if the world starts crashing and burning behind you, that you went out on this burning ship just trying your best and shining your light. Okay, and once that fear goes away and enough of us step into that faith over fear, we're going to see some radical changes. And it's already happening. Separation is all time, like duality. And when that happens, a third thing kind of emerges in the middle, a new thing. And I feel like we're ready for this new thing. So if you're ready, challenge the fear, create something new, step out of your paradigm and create a whole new paradigm shift for yourself. And hopefully, if we do enough of this together, do it for the planet as well. I'm Gio. If you want resources to help you get out of your mind and out of fear, check out elementalwisdom.com, download our app, you have free resources. It's the number one tool that I've used to help me on my transformational journey. And love for you to try it. Let me know how you like it. Peace.